was down and out, riddled with doubt, had nowhere to go. Everything's moving so slow, but time's moving too fast. I hope this feeling don't last. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping on to you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping on to you, yeah, on to you. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping on to you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping on to you, yeah, on to you. I was down and out, so riddled with doubt.
am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a sugar and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a sugar and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to the thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got sugar, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Baby's got it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the hell you are. I'm not gonna dox you. Can you hear me? Hey, buddy. Oh, no, no, please. I'll obey. That guy. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday morning here somewhere in the Chicagoland area. In a Chicago near you, it is Friday. Let's shout everybody out this morning. Good morning, Bella. Good to see you. AB is new to our little neck of the woods here. You like pie, AB? Well, you're in a good spot. We all like pie around here. It's delicious and nutritious. I wouldn't ask for another. We got Wesley in the house. What's up, Wesley? Willie Bragg. Willie, you're not doing a show tonight, right? Is that correct? I checked your itinerary and it didn't say you had a show tonight. I'm assuming. If that is incorrect information, please let me know. Good morning to you. Willie had a show last night about Blue Sky. We'll talk about that in just a quick minute. Who else is in the joint? Leanna, good to see you. Blue Sky is not all shit lib. I don't know. It probably is. But, you know, it's probably just like everything else. There's always a mixed bag. We got Chuck in here floating in outer space watching the show, as well as Ed made an appearance too. Jacqueline, good to see you, my dear. And tell Mouse I said hi. I like Mouse. Mouse is a nice little shit stir. And of course, Finger Man and Miguel. I think Miguel popped in last night. He usually comes in a little bit later, so. You guys hear me okay? If I put it up to my mouth here, you could probably hear me a little better, but then you get the scary face. I don't want that. We don't want the scary face. No show tonight. Okay. Yeah, it is a mixed bag. So, I have one of those accounts, but just as a backup. I think I made the account, checked it for about a week, and then that was like, I don't know, a year or so ago, something like that. I mean, it's probably not great, but I mean, it's always good to have backups just in case. You know, any port in the storm, right? A mixed dirt bag. Yeah, exactly, Wes. It's a mixed dirt bag. But like most, you know, a lot of times you might find a little diamond in the rough. You never know. So, damn, you get that one hair. You don't know where that came from. And it wasn't from doing fun things either. I wish. Folks, yeah, it is Friday the 15th, and just a reminder that our buddy Chanda needs your help and my help too. She is undergoing chemotherapy and other treatments for lung cancer, and of course those bills aren't cheap. If you can hit her up on her GoFundMe, the link is in the description below. If you don't have the dough, no worries. Just if you could share out the link, we would all appreciate that. Anonymous in the house just got here, but got things to do, so listening. All right, well, thanks for that update, dear diary. You'll never guess who I met today at the grocery store. I'm gonna stick his eyes over here. There you go. Bella says, enjoy your palm oil, hydrogenated soy oil, BHT, cellulose, gum, calcium, propionate, aluminum sulfate. Like the fast. I don't know what that is. You're a fucking scientist. Okay, so yes, and shout out to all my peeps that are lurking on Rockfin, Rumble, and Facebook. You know who you are, you special people. Big show today. We got a lot of stuff to get to. So let me make sure I'm not missing anything else. All right, let's get to it. We got the UN committee that says Israel's actions consistent with characteristics of genocide. If it walks like a genocide and it talks like a genocide, chances are it's a genocide. Oh, the hand up like that. Oh, that's low-hanging fruit. That's low-hanging fruit. Not going to go there, but you know what I'm talking about. A report by a United Nations Special Committee has accused Israel of using starvation as a weapon of war and policies and practices in Gaza that may amount to a possibility of genocide. Possibility. A very, 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 very good possibility. The special committee comprised 3 member states, Malaysia, Senegal, and Sri Lanka. The report, released amid ongoing scrutiny of Israel's military response to the October 7th Hamas attack, highlights the difficult conditions facing Gaza's 2.3 million residents, well, probably a lot less than that now, particularly in terms of restricted access to food, water, medical care, and shelter. The policies and practices of Israel during the reporting period are consistent with the characteristics of genocide, the report states, urging immediate steps to be taken to protect civilian lives. The special committee also concluded that Israel is committing several violations of international law, and not just in Gaza. Civilians have been indiscriminately and disproportionately killed en masse in Gaza, while in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, Israeli colonial settlers, military, and security personnel have continued to violate human rights and humanitarian law with impunity, the report says. The committee added that Israeli government and military officials must be held accountable, including for dehumanizing language and inciting violence. The report goes further than just actions taken by Israel during its devastating war on Gaza. The committee accuses Israel of discriminatory legislation and measures that maintain a near complete separation of Palestinians from Israeli settlers, in breach of Article 3 on racial segregation and apartheid, under the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Israel's violations of UN Security Council resolutions and orders of the International Court of Justice are weakening the international rules-based order, the committee said. The report recommends that UN member states exercise their leverage to stop Israel from practices and policies that violate Palestinian human rights, halt all offensive arms transfers, hold Israelis accountable, and review financial policies that allow religious and charitable organizations from funding activities in Israel. The report comes at a time when international legal actions are being pursued against Israel. In the wake of the October 2023 attack, South Africa filed a case at the International Court of Justice accusing Israel of committing genocide. This case marks only the second instance in which a state has sought to bring another to court under the Genocide Convention, following the Gambia's case against Myanmar in 2019, accusing it of genocide against the Rohingya population. Israel recently moved to sever ties with the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, that's UNRWA, which has been the primary provider of humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. Israeli lawmakers cited allegations of Hamas infiltration within UNRWA, of course, Hamas is everywhere, as a reason for this decision, prompting concerns from UN officials that the move could further hinder relief efforts. The report urges international bodies to increase support for UNRWA, both politically and financially, as the agency faces growing challenges in delivering vital services to the Palestinian population. Since the escalation of the conflict, Israeli officials have publicly supported policies depriving civilians of food, water, and fuel, indicating their intent to instrumentalize the provision of basic necessities, the report concludes. The UN's findings are corroborated by the investigation from the ICJ brought by South Africa's case. In response to the case, the ICJ has ordered Israel to take interim steps to prevent genocide, like, maybe stopping genocide, ensure humanitarian aid reaches Gaza, and preserve evidence of potential genocide. However, Israel has rejected the court's ruling, with Prime Minister Fuckface asserting that Israel's commitment to international law was unwavering. Yeah, and the United States had that 30-day thing, like you better let some aid in there and do some stuff, or why I oughta these fisticuffs. Desert Mantis, what's up? In the house, just like in the good old days. The cavalry will save the day. I don't know about the cavalry, but there's definitely going to be some horse shit involved. That is for sure. So, of course, everybody that BB surrounds himself with, speaking of horse shit, is shit. Netanyahu's chief of staff questioned for allegedly altering the timeline of October 7th discussions. Look at him. He's whispering to him, going, "Psst, I'm altering the timeline of October 7th discussions. Pass it on." No, wait, don't pass it on. That's secret. Israeli police suspect that Zachi Braverman, Chief of Staff in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, tried to manipulate the timelines of conversations between the premier and his military secretary, Major General Avi Gil, in the early hours of October 7, 2023. According to the Israeli daily Haaretz, quote, Netanyahu was first informed of the Hamas attack around 6:29 a.m. by Gil shortly after air raid sirens sounded across the country on an unsecured line. Netanyahu and Gil had a second call using a secure red phone 10 minutes later, during which the Israeli general updated the premier with intelligence reports. Braverman is accused of attempting to manipulate the timestamp on the second phone call, including trying to blackmail an officer in the military secretariat of the prime minister's office. Ooh, scandal, blackmail, oh so delicious. Realizing that Braverman's attempt had failed, Gil decided to report the matter to Attorney General Gali Baharov Miara, Haaretz reports, adding that Israeli police suspect that staff in the Prime Minister's office used sensitive documentation belonging to the senior officer to gain access to the minutes stored in the Secretariat with the intent to alter them. Delicious. On November 8th, Israeli news outlet Yedioth Ahronoth reported that Netanyahu is being investigated on suspicion of secretly making changes to the minutes of a meeting that dealt with the preparation for proceedings against Israel in The Hague. This comes months after reports emerged in Israeli media saying that Netanyahu faced allegations of trying to make his conversations regarding the management of the war in Gaza untraceable. Wow, that's me being shocked. Thursday's revelations come a day after the Jerusalem District Court rejected Netanyahu's request to delay his testimony in his corruption trial by 10 weeks. The court stressed that the premier has already had 5 months to prepare for his testimony, which is scheduled for December 2nd. We were not convinced that a substantial change in circumstances has occurred, which would justify a change to the date we set in our original decision. As a result, Netanyahu will be forced to take the stand. Womp, womp, womp. So, yeah, all kinds of corrupt shit going on in that neck of the woods. But, you know what? Even with all his bullshit, his coalition... his political coalition there is still like, buddy, you're still aces with us. Maybe not in those words. Israeli coalition heads reject any attempts to incapacitate Netanyahu. Oh, that's a strange choice of words there, Captain. In a unified statement, leaders of the parties within Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition declared their firm opposition to any potential move to compel Netanyahu to step down, even temporarily, Israeli media reported yesterday. The statement follows the Al-Quds District Court's recent denial of a request to postpone Netanyahu's testimony in his upcoming corruption trial scheduled for December 2nd. This comes amid a wave of unconfirmed reports suggesting that Israeli Attorney General Gali Baharov Miara might consider sidelining the prime minister during his court appearances. The Attorney General has not made any public indication of such a decision. We, the heads of the coalition parties, reject outright any attempt to declare the prime minister incapacitated, even for a very short period of time, the statement asserted. We stand and will continue to stand to protect democracy. Only the people, through their elected representatives in the Knesset, will determine who will lead the nation and who will serve as prime minister. The signatories stressed that any declaration of incapacity lacks legal basis and is therefore invalid, warning that such a move would amount to a coup in every sense. The declaration is signed by the leaders of the Likud, Shas, United Torah, Judaism, Religious Zionism, Otzma Yehudit, New Hope, and Noam parties. So they're sticking with their boy as he continues murdering people, including people in Syria, as a deadly Israeli strike kills over a dozen in the Syrian capital. That's a little tight. Yeah, let's pull that up. Several people were killed and injured in an Israeli attack on the Syrian capital, Damascus, yesterday, coinciding with a surge in U.S. and Israeli attacks on the country. The Israeli enemy launched an aggression on the Mazeh and Qudsiya areas in Damascus on Thursday, Syrian Arab News Agency, or SANA, reported on Thursday afternoon, adding that 15 people were killed and 16 wounded in the attack. Images published by SANA show smoke rising from a damaged building. Video footage also shows large clouds of smoke. And here's some here from Surabel, at Syribelle, that has reports of Israeli aggression. Al-Mazeh, or Al-Maza, is that what that is? In Damascus near Al-Saraya. So there's some of that there. Sputnik's correspondent reported that several were killed and injured in the Mazeh area when 3 Israeli missiles struck a building in the neighborhood. Civil defense and firefighting teams rushed to the site of the airstrike. 2 large explosions were heard during the attack, according to Sputnik. Israeli army radio reported that infrastructure and a headquarters associated with the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement were targeted. Israel has been bombing Syria for years, but has recently stepped up its violent and illegal campaign against the country. At around 8:05 p.m. today, the Israeli enemy launched an air aggression from the direction of Lebanese territory, targeting bridges on the Orontes River, also called the Assi River, and roads on the Syrian-Lebanese border in the Qusayra area in the Homs countryside, a military source told SANA on Wednesday evening. Several other attacks have struck Lebanese-Syrian border crossings in recent weeks. Tel Aviv claims it's targeting smuggling routes through which Hezbollah transports weapons to Lebanon via Syria. Last month, Israel bombarded the port city of Latakia near the Russian Hamimimim air base. I don't know how to say that name. So, more boom boom from the genociders. As Israeli forces killed 24 more Palestinians in Gaza over a 24-hour period. It's the same thing. It's like a broken record. It's Dave DeCamp over there at antiwar.com. Check them out for plenty of independent sources there and their own reporting as well. Gaza's health ministry said yesterday that Israeli attacks killed at least 24 Palestinians and wounded 112 in the past 24-hour period as Israeli strikes continued across the Strip. Strikes on Thursday included an attack on a school in Gaza, of course, because that's where Hamas is. It's in the schools, y'all. At sheltering Palestinians who have been displaced by Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign in the northern cities of Beit Lahia, Jabalia, and Beit Hanon. Israeli troops have been forcing civilians to leave the cities under threat of death, but Israeli strikes still target the areas where they tell them to flee. All of the people who were in this school came from Jabalia, Beit Lahia, and Beit Hanun, and this is not the first time the Israeli forces targeted this school, said Al Jazeera reporter Hind Kudere. This is the fourth time the same school has been targeted. 4 times. School. Kudere said it was unclear how many were killed and injured in the strike, meaning the casualties counted in the health ministry's death toll, which was put out about midday Gaza time. We are unable to reach anyone on the ground to know what's the story and how many people have been injured or killed, she said. Strikes were also reported in central Gaza, where at least 4 were killed by an Israeli drone. On the Barej refugee camp. Oh, yes, bombing a refugee camp. Very nice. At the Al-Aqsa hospital in Deir el-Balah, a 1-year-old boy died due to the lack of supplies as a result of the Israeli siege. A 1-year-old boy has died in the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital here in Deir el-Balah in the past half hour, despite his case being treatable, according to the doctors we spoke to, said Al Jazeera reporter Hani Mahmoud. Due to the lack of medical supplies, the hospital cannot do anything to save him. This is part of the silent death that is happening on an hourly basis in the Gaza Strip. Israeli strikes were also reported in southern Gaza, with 3 killed east of Rafah, east of the city of Rafah. And so now the death toll is over, getting close to 44,000. The counted, that is. That's not counting those still trapped under the rubble and God knows where. And over 103,000 wounded. Yeah. And it's just going back and forth. Who knows if this is just going to actually blow up into a huge regional conflict. But the Iraqi resistance, much like our pals the Houthis, they're staying in the mix for sure. Iraqi resistance bombs vital targets in northern and southern Israel. Now, again, there's 2 factions in Iraq. You have the actual government, who is just kind of the no-balls of the group. And then you have the Iraqi resistance, which is the ones that's actually doing this shit. The Islamic resistance in Iraq yesterday claimed responsibility for launching 4 drone attacks against targets in northern and southern Israel in 4 statements between 3 and 5:30 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. I don't know. Why has it got to be mean? Why can't it be Greenwich Nice Time? It confirmed that it had launched drones towards vital targets, which it did not specify. It noted that 2 of them are in northern Israel and 2 in the south, continuing our approach of resisting the occupation and in support of our people in Palestine and Lebanon. In addition, the fires erupted in the Bet Shemesh area near the city of Jerusalem after fragments of interceptor missiles fell on it after the Israeli army intercepted a missile launched from Yemen. See, I told you them Houthis get in there. The army had previously said in a statement that it detected a missile that crossed from the east towards areas south of the West Bank. So it continues to grow. Meanwhile, Hezbollah attacks Israeli army's Tel Aviv headquarters twice in one day. Ooh, where's that Iron Dome at, yo? Hezbollah announced on Wednesday that it had successfully targeted the Israeli military's Kiryat base in Tel Aviv, home to the Defense Ministry, General Staff, War Room, and Air Force Command and Control Center, twice in the same day. Like the first time was for real, and the second one was just to say, "Bitch." That's like an extra kick while they're down. The Islamic resistance launched for the first time an aerial operation with a squadron of qualitative assault drones targeting the Kiryat base in Tel Aviv, hitting their targets precisely at 3:30 p.m. 03:30 p.m. On Wednesday, a statement by Hezbollah said, Israeli media denied the report, claiming there is currently no indication that any drones reached central Israel or came near army headquarters. Yeah, right. But why is your nose growing when you say that? The Islamic resistance movement in Lebanon later issued a second statement saying that it struck the Kiryat base a second time at 6:15 p.m. with Qatar 2 ballistic missiles, which hit their targets precisely. Hezbollah declared on Wednesday that it has bombarded the Gilat base. That's an interesting name. Headquarters of the military intelligence unit 8200 in the suburbs of Tel Aviv, which had also successfully targeted on November 2nd with a qualitative missile barrage. A squadron of Hezbollah attack drones also struck Israel's Amos base on Wednesday. The base is an important transport and technology readiness hub for Israel's northern region, located 55 kilometers from the Lebanese-Israeli border. CJ, good morning. Good to see you. Almost 2 months after the start of Israel's massive bombing campaign against Lebanon, Hezbollah remains capable of striking military targets deep within Israel while simultaneously thwarting the ongoing Israeli ground invasion of the country. Israeli forces have managed to destroy many Lebanese villages across the border, but are taking heavy casualties and have not been able to breach Hezbollah's first line of defenses. Earlier on Wednesday, Hebrew media outlets reported a very difficult incident in which several Israeli troops were killed in southern Lebanon, coming as Tel Aviv has recently declared an expansion of its ground operation in the country. According to Sky News Arabia, 9 Israeli soldiers were killed in a booby-trapped building in South Lebanon, and others were wounded. The soldiers were in the building when the explosives were detonated. On Tuesday, the Israeli army announced the beginning of the second phase of its ground operation in southern Lebanon in an effort to advance towards Hezbollah's second line of defense. So back and forth, back and forth. Where is it going to end? Now that the elections in America are over, what's going to happen next, you know? You hear Hamas talking about they're ready to do a ceasefire now that Trump's president. Well, you know, I don't think Trump wants peace. If people are whispering in his ear that it's very profitable. Meanwhile, you know, we told you about the financial toll this war is taking on Israel. Well, it's taking its toll on Lebanon as well. Israel-Hezbollah conflict cost Lebanon $8.5 billion, according to the World Bank. I would assume that's in damages alone. The World Bank said yesterday the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has caused $8.5 billion in damage and losses to Lebanon, with final figures expected to be significantly higher as the conflict continues. Ignited by the Gaza war, the conflict has been rumbling on for nearly a year before Israel went on the offensive in September, pounding Lebanon with airstrikes and sending troops into the south. Lebanon faces estimated economic losses of $5.1 billion over 12 months, driven primarily by heavy impacts on commerce, tourism, and agriculture. Direct physical damage in Lebanon amounts to at least $3.4 billion. The damage and loss assessment conducted by the World Bank said. The analysis projects Lebanon's real GDP will contract by at least 5.7% in 2024 due to the conflict, compared to 0.9% growth in the scenario without the conflict, a heavy toll for a country still reeling from the effects of a financial collapse 5 years ago. Housing in the sector with the most reported damage estimated at $2.8 billion, with over 99,000 housing units partially or fully damaged. That again, according to the World Bank. Agriculture, which has been particularly affected, lost over $1.1 billion over 12 months, driven by lost harvests caused by destruction of crops and livestock and displacement of farmers. Commerce accounted for $178 million in damage, with economic losses estimated at $1.7 billion. The education sector losses estimated at 215 million, while the government has incurred 221 million in damage. It added. The health sector has suffered losses estimated at 338 million, while tourism and hospitality, one of Lebanon's more main economic drivers, they took a hit of 1.1 billion. So that's how it's basically broken down. The conflict is having broader social and environmental implications in Lebanon and has exacerbated food insecurities, the report said. What's going on with this thing? You gonna behave yourself? Probably not. Okay. Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, what's going to happen once, this conflict is, is taken into, once it gets to a point where the rebuilding is going to have to start, It's going to take a lot of money for sure. So, yeah, a lot of blood, a lot of money. Meanwhile, there's protests going on in Paris over pro-Israel gala organized by far-right figures. So they're putting on a little shindig for Israel, and Paris people are like, not a fan. A protest erupted in Paris against a contentious gala organized by far-right figures in support of Israel. The event intended to raise funds for the Israeli military. Called Israel is Forever, the gala was planned by an association of the same name whose stated goal is to mobilize French-speaking Zionist forces. Hundreds of protesters marched through central Paris on Wednesday night, denouncing the gala of hatred and shame, which was also the theme of my junior prom. The gala of hatred and shame. Imagine if an association were hosting a gala for Hezbollah or Hamas. There's no way the police would allow that, said Melker Saib, a 30-year-old protester. The situation is just unfair. The demonstrations took place on the eve of a high-stakes football match between France and Israel at the Stade de France, north of Paris. The authorities in the French capital announced that more than 4,000 police officers and 1,600 stadium staff will be deployed for the game, which was held yesterday. Israel's far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich was among those invited, but he did not attend amid growing criticism of the event. The invitation to Smotrich grew outrage from local associations, unions, and left-wing political parties, prompting two protests in the French capital. The hardliner was denounced this week for saying that he hopes the election of Donald Trump as a U.S. president will clear the way for the Israeli annexation of the occupied West Bank, a step that would extinguish Palestinian statehood dreams. The French Ministry of Foreign Affairs calls Smotrich's remarks contrary to international law and counterproductive to efforts to lower regional tensions. Critics also pointed to Neely Kupfer-Naori, the president of the Israel is Forever Association, who sparked anger last year after Israel's war in Gaza started, posting on social media that no civilian in Gaza was innocent. A separate group, including Jewish left-wing organizations opposed to racism and anti-Semitism, gathered near the Arc de Triomphe, chanting slogans against the event and Smotrich. Yeah, so stopping the genocide. Meanwhile, police violence is being probed, giggity, after Amsterdam pro-Palestinian protests. Wow, they're investigating the cops. They never do that shit here. Only the cops investigate the cops. Sometimes the tech works, and sometimes the tech works against you. And I think that's what's going on right now. You know what? That's going to be what we call good enough for government work. My apologies. Dutch police said Thursday they have opened an inquiry into alleged police brutality during and after a banned pro-Palestinian protest in Amsterdam, in which 281 demonstrators were detained, arrested. Social media footage showed riot police shouting at protesters and hitting them with batons after they were released from a bus on the outskirts of the Dutch capital following Wednesday night's protest. Several hundred demonstrators dressed in Palestinian scarves and chanting slogans gathered on the city's famous Dam Square, despite a ban following last week's attacks on Israeli football fans. The city did grant an exemption for a protest on Wednesday, but on the condition that it take place at the city's Westergas terrain outside of the center. Videos are circulating on social media showing members of the mobile unit, that's the riot police, acting against protesters who have just been removed from a bus, police said in a statement. These protesters were transported to this location after they were previously arrested on Dam Square for violating the emergency ordinance. The exact reason for the mobile unit's action in this specific video fragment is being investigated, police said, without specifying which footage they were referring to. AFP reporters at the protest saw police dragging demonstrators to waiting buses, with some putting up heavy resistance. The demonstration came almost a week after the attacks on Maccabi Tel Aviv fans after a football match with local club Ajax. Well, Maccabi started it, when Israeli fans were chased and beaten up by the men on scooters. You got beaten up by a dude on a scooter. Loser. 5 Maccabi fans were briefly hospitalized in which Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof called an incident of unadulterated anti-Semitism after the attacks were sparked by calls on social media to single out Jews. The attacks also sparked outrage in many Western capitals. But Amsterdam authorities also reported incidents involving Maccabi fans before the match who were chanting anti-Arab slogans and burning a Palestinian flag. Violence took place against the backdrop of an increasingly polarized Europe with heightened tensions following a rise in anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli, and Islamophobic attacks since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. There you go. If you want to boycott somebody, there's an app for that. There's an app for that. Y'all get your phones out. Come on now, you critters. You know you've been there already. Sticking your nose in there. BDS partners with Boycat, which used to be my website when I was dressed as a cat and just run around and people didn't care. The Boycat app to tackle Israeli occupation and apartheid. The BDS movement has partnered with the smartphone app Boycat to increase public awareness about companies targeted by the movement in a bid to enhance public participation in its consumer-focused campaigns. Boycat, an app created by Yemeni Sri Lankan developer Adil Abuthala, allows users to scan barcodes to identify a company's level of compliance with the consumer boycott of Israel. It also provides users with alternatives to products deemed to be non-compliant. That sounds pretty good. Now, the Boycat app makes it easier than ever to correctly identify BDS priority targets. Through the app, users can check these regularly updated BDS targets, scan products, learn about companies, build your ethical shopping profile, join local teams, and directly support our priority campaigns, ensuring your purchasing decisions contribute to a larger movement for justice, the BDS movement said in a post on its website. BDS described Boycat's tiering system, which groups brands based on their level of involvement with Israel, as a key element of the new partnership. Launched in January, Boycat says it has over 1 million users and has credited itself with diverting millions of dollars in revenue away from brands linked to Israel. Boycat sounds like a furry fetish app. How would you know about that, CJ? About furry fetish apps? You're telling on yourself. Boycat founder Abuthala said that he was inspired to create the app in the first few months of Israel's latest war on Gaza. It was in November 14th last year, we witnessed 1 month of atrocities in Gaza itself. We saw Israeli bombing like crazy, destroying the cities and everything, and we felt so helpless at that time. That one night on November 14th, I had a dream. It's very cheesy, but I had a dream where I was arguing with someone why they are buying Starbucks. and they basically just said there's no alternative, and I don't know. That's all they said, Abdullah told Anadolu earlier this year. And I woke up and I just had everything clicked. I just texted the right people, and I was like, we need to make a BDS application, make it easy. So we started building in December, and then from there we launched in January. Launched in 2005, BDS is a nonviolent Palestinian-led movement promoting boycotts of Israeli products, withdrawal of investments from Israel, and sanctions on the country in response to Israel's continued occupation of the West Bank, war and siege on Gaza, and oppression of the Palestinian people. Don't forget the Syrians and what they're doing to them, too. Consumer boycotts of Israel have received increased attention since Israel began its assault on Gaza last year, with many popular international brands having noted significant losses, including Starbucks, KFC, and McDonald's. So, yeah, actually, that's pretty cool. So you get the app, and then you scan the product, and it tells you, this is great. Or it says, Zionist. Do not buy this whipped butter. Do not buy this whipped butter. It's Zionist. Zionist whipped butter. That's where we're at, folks. Zionist whipped butter. Our buddy Hills is in the news. Well, sort of. Arrests made at pro-Palestinian protest outside Hillary Clinton's speech in Belfast. 4 men were arrested yesterday during a pro-Palestinian protest outside a speech being given by former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at Queen's University in Belfast. Clinton, who holds the largely ceremonial role of chancellor at the school in the capital of Northern Ireland, was speaking on the final day of the Global Innovation Summit 2024. The gathering included political, business, and academic leaders discussing economic inclusion and global sustainability, the university said. Protesters and Palestine flags carried a cutout of Clinton depicted with blood on her hands and chanted, "Shame." Video footage showed protesters engaged in angry exchanges and scuffles with police outside the hall where Clinton was speaking. Police said 4 men were arrested for public order offenses. Queen's University said in a statement that it respected peaceful protests but condemned the behavior of a small number of demonstrators. Queen's University has led the way in response to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East through calling for a ceasefire, providing scholarships for Palestinian students, and divestment policies, and has responded positively to the concerns of our university population where appropriate, the university said in a statement. Oh, no, go away. Clinton said Belfast was reinventing itself after decades of conflict and referred to the celebration last year of the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998 that largely brought peace to Northern Ireland. And then she got drunk. Because they all do. Bunch of drunken bastard people things. The thing with the Glavins. And people arrested at the White House, too. So, uphold the law, arrested. 9 arrested at White House demanding arms embargo on Israel. This is by Brett Wilkins over there at Common Dreams. 9 people were arrested Tuesday while blocking an entrance to the White House in Washington, D.C. to demand the Biden administration uphold U.S. laws which require an arms embargo on Israel, given the key Mideast allies' well-documented human rights violations during its 13th-month assault on Gaza. Demonstrators led by the Democrats for Human Rights Coalition sat in a roadway in front of a White House gate with banners reading, "Israel uses starvation as a weapon," and "Uphold the law, arms embargo now." 3 women who resigned from the Biden administration over its support for Israel's obliteration of Gaza, Lily Greenberg Call, Stacy Gilbert, and Ana del Castillo, joined the demonstration, as did 88-year-old Holocaust survivor Marion Ingram. Police are arresting us now, organizer Kai Newkirk, who co-chairs the Arizona Democratic Party Progressive Council, said on social media on Tuesday night. Police arresting us now. We will not be moved. Biden's deadline cannot come up and go with no action to mark it and hold him accountable. Uphold the law. Keep your word. Enact an arms embargo to impose a ceasefire and end our complicity in Israel's horrific war crimes in Gaza. Last month, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin gave the far-right Israeli government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, 30 days to show that it had taken urgent and sustained actions to alleviate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza or face a possible suspension of armed aid. That is so precious. You are so cute saying possible. As President Joe Biden's 30-day deadline for Israel to stop blocking our laws in Gaza expires, we are sitting in and peacefully blocking the gate at the White House, Newkirk said before his arrest. U.S. law requires an arms embargo. As Democrats for Human Rights, we call upon Biden to uphold the law, arms embargo now. The U.S. State Department sparked worldwide anger Tuesday with its determination that Israel is not violating humanitarian law, even as its forces have killed over 43,000 Palestinians, wounded more than 103,000 others, and displaced, starved, or sickened millions more, while blocking desperately needed humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. We will not be moved, vowed Newkirk, who added that the Biden administration's deadline cannot come and go with no action to mark it and hold him accountable. Yeah. So, back in the Middle East with Iran, Elon Musk has been funding or helping fund Trump's campaign. And apparently he wants to be in on the mix as far as like what Trump's going to be doing. I don't know if he wants a cabinet position, but he definitely wants to be able to whisper in Trump's ear sweet nothings, because that's what he does. Elon Musk met with Iran's UN ambassador to discuss easing tensions, according to the New York Times. Elon Musk, an advisor to President-elect Donald Trump, met with Iran's ambassador to the UN on Monday. The report cited two unnamed Iranian officials who said the discussion lasted over an hour and was about how to diffuse tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Hey, Peace Dove, good to see you. Good morning to you. The Iranian sources described the meeting as positive and good news. The reported meeting hasn't been confirmed publicly by any side. We do not comment on reports of private meetings that did or did not occur, Stephen Chang, Trump's communication director, told The Times. Musk has been close to Trump since strongly throwing support behind him during the presidential race and reportedly was involved in a recent call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Musk's SpaceX has played a crucial role in Ukraine's war effort by providing Starlink terminals and services. The Times report came after Trump announced most of his foreign policy team, which is stacked with Iran hawks. Trump took a hard line against Iran during his previous administration with the so-called maximum pressure campaign, which involved tearing up the Iran nuclear deal, imposing crippling economic sanctions, and assassinating Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. So far, Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz have been picks for his cabinet, and they both want to return to maximum pressure, and that's what Israel Express. Israel Hayom reported, I guess that's a paper there, that Trump's team is preparing plans to topple Iran's regime, a policy that would almost certainly mean war with Iran. Well, you think? But the Israel Hayom report didn't offer any details about what the plans for regime change involved. Israel Hayom is published by Miriam Adelson. You know that old broad. The widow of the late casino magnate Sheldon Adelson, who donated $100 million to Trump's campaign to encourage him to pursue extremely pro-Israel policies, which means the news outlet is likely looking to influence the incoming administration to be as hawkish on Iran as possible. Are you having trouble seeing the blue letters? It's because I have it on dark mode. I'm sorry. Don't worry. I got the links will be in the description after the show's done, so you can check there. Yeah. And of course there's a lot of Speaking of Voldemort there in Ukraine, there's a lot of, hey, who's going to be our money daddy? Who's going to be our money daddy? What's up, Fred Edward? Good to see you, bud. Trump's U.S. election leaves Ukraine scrambling for EU military assistance because pretty much Trump's going to say nope. So they got to get their sugar somewhere else. Donald Trump's U.S. presidential election victory on November 5th has cast a sharp spotlight on what military and financial assistance Ukraine could expect from the European Union. Trump last year pressed U.S. lawmakers to delay a $61.4 billion military aid package to Ukraine and claimed he would end the Ukraine war in a day if he won. Ukraine was also concerned that the delivery of weapons promised under the administration of President Joe Biden be fulfilled before the handover of power on January 20th. Pentagon spokesman Pat Ryder said the U.S. had delivered 83% of munitions, 67% of critical air defenses, and 60% of firepower capabilities committed to Ukraine under defense packages between April and mid-October. Russian Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov said on Wednesday that he did not expect the start of Trump's presidency to change the U.S. position on Ukraine. But Trump has demanded that EU member states, which are also NATO members, raise defense spending to 3% of gross domestic product and threaten to let Russia do whatever the hell it wants with them if they refuse, suggesting U.S. backing for NATO and potentially Ukraine would be conditional under his presidency. Yeah, just let him do whatever the hell he wants. I think he did this last time he was president too. So, meanwhile, in Sudan, French weapons used in conflict in violation of UN embargo. Look at all them weapons. Jesus, that is a sack of death right there. Which is I don't know. I was going to say that's what they call me in prison, but that doesn't really make sense. French. I have a swig. I don't know. Losing brain power. That vodka hits extra in the mornings. French manufactured military technology incorporated into armored vehicles made by the United Arab Emirates is being used on the battlefield in Sudan by the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, in what likely constitutes a violation of a U.S. arms embargo, Amnesty International said in a new investigation yesterday. The Galix system, made by LaCroix Defense and jointly designed with Nexter, now KNDS France, is a defense technology for land forces that releases decoys, smoke, and projectiles to counter close-range threats. In pictures shared on social media and verified by Amnesty, the Galix system, or Galix, maybe it's Galix, is visible on several Nimr Ajban armored personnel carriers, APCs, manufactured in the UAE, which have been destroyed or captured by the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF. A lot of letters. The Galix system is being deployed by the RSF in this conflict, and any use in Darfur would be a clear breach of the UN arms embargo, Agnes Calamard, Amnesty International Secretary General, said. France is bound by international, regional, and national laws to prohibit the export of arms where there is a substantial risk that the arms could be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international human rights or humanitarian law, like genocide. A United Nations arms embargo has been in place on Sudan's Darfur region since 2004, and a European Union arms embargo on the whole of the country has been implemented since 1994. The RSF and the Sudanese army have been at war since April of 2023 in a conflict that has turned the country into the world's largest humanitarian catastrophe by scale. More than 11 million people, nearly 30% of the population, have fled their homes, while more than 23,000 people have been killed and 33,000 wounded, of which a substantial number are civilians. Meanwhile, millions of Sudanese are facing acute hunger or are at risk of famine. The RSF has been accused of a wide range of atrocities against civilians, including mass rape and genocide against the Masalit community, According to a UN inquiry published at the end of October, the paramilitary group's actions may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity, including torture, rape, sex trafficking, and persecution based on ethnic and gender grounds. Middle East Eye has reported extensively on how the UAE has become the RSF's main regional backer. The country has a long track record of breaching UN Security Council arms embargoes, including in relation to Libya and Sudan. France and the UAE have a long-standing partnership in the defense sector. The French Parliamentary 2024 report on arms export indicates that French companies were responsible for delivering an estimated 2.6 billion euros, that's 2.74 billion American, in military equipment to the UAE between 2014 and 2023. LaCroix Defense has an established presence in the UAE, having set up a joint venture with Emirates Defense Technology as early as 2015. Nimr Ajban APCs have been equipped with the Gaelic system since at least 2017, Amnesty reported. If France cannot guarantee through export controls, including end-user certification, that arms will not be re-exported to Sudan, it should not authorize those transfers, the organization said. Furthermore, all companies have a responsibility to respect human rights, Amnesty stressed. You would think this responsibility requires companies to conduct human rights due diligence throughout their entire value chain, from the point of origin to the end user, to identify, prevent, and mitigate any actual or potential involvement in human rights abuses. France has repeatedly been singled out for its exports of military equipment and arms, despite major risks that they could be used to commit or facilitate serious violations of international law. It has notably delivered war materials to Saudi Arabia and the UAE despite their involvement in the conflict in Yemen, and has been a major exporter of weapons to Egypt in spite of Cairo's poor human rights record and its crackdown on peaceful activists on the pretext of fighting terrorism. That's right. More recently, in the context of Israel's war on Gaza, Paris has been accused of lack of transparency in its arms exports to Israel and of failing to provide evidence that French military material is not being used against Palestinian civilians. We were talking about, I think there was going to be cutbacks and whatnot at the Audi plants in, believe in Brussels here. Well, guess what? The riots are out. Riot breaks out at Audi plant. So this is the thing. This is the gentleman here. They're just like, oh no, we don't want this shit, you cops with the things. I'm not quite sure what it's about. We'll get to it. Max Sarge, good to see you. Good morning. Those aren't war crimes. They're just regular what they do. Exactly. And they're allowed to get away with it. But you know what? Vote your way out. You're going to vote them out, aren't you? That's how we do it, right? Police were forced to disperse protesters after riots erupted on Wednesday at a plant belonging to German car maker Audi in the Belgian capital Brussels, Reuters has reported. Around 150 people, some of whom wore masks, breached a negotiating room during discussions on a severance plan between unions and the administration of the factory, which is being closed, an Audi spokeswoman told the agency. The invaders set off fireworks and prevented the participants of the talks from leaving the premises, she added. Police intervened and forced the protesters to disperse, according to the spokeswoman, who said one union member had been slightly injured in the melee. A video from the scene showed officers with batons and in full riot gear pushing the demonstrators, who were apparently employees of the plant. Sacre-bleu. So yeah, basically what we just saw. So earlier this year, Audi, which is a subsidiary of the Volkswagen Group, announced that it will stop vehicle production at the facility in Brussels in March of next year. The plant is now facing closure after failing to find new investors, and Volkswagen could not find an alternative use for the site. What party? What did you say? Like party hub? Is that what you mean? Some 3,000 employees and several hundred subcontractors are at risk of losing their jobs. In September, 5,000 people took to the streets of Brussels in solidarity with the workers. We are literally being eaten up, and I don't know if we are in a position to do anything about it, an Audi employee told Euronews at the time. I don't think you'd be literally eaten up. Then there'd be like teeth involved and stuff. So, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Just try not to use literally. The EU's automotive industry is facing multiple challenges amid high energy prices and other economic hurdles faced by the bloc. Competition from cheaper Chinese electric vehicles is also a concern. Late last month, Volkswagen Group announced that it plans to close at least 3 plants in Germany and downsize its remaining factories. The move could mean thousands of job losses and entire departments being shut down or relocated abroad. I was going to make a broad joke, but that's probably not going to fly either. So Israel's Iron Dome is so good that the kids in Greece want a piece of it. So Greece is in talks with Israel to develop a 2 billion euro Iron Dome. All right, these little things right here, the little AT-ATs or whatever they are from Star Wars. Greece is in talks with Israel to develop a 2 billion euro, that's $2.11 billion anti-aircraft missile defense dome, part of a wider push to modernize its armed forces as it recovers from a protracted debt crisis, Greek officials said yesterday. The defenses would likely mimic Israel's Iron Dome and other systems that intercept short and long-range missiles launched during strikes from its neighbors amid the ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon. Greece is keen to invest in its defenses to keep up with its NATO ally and historic rival Turkey, which is also developing its own air defenses despite some improvements in relations. I think Turkey's also trying to get into BRICS too. The plan is to create a multi-layer anti-aircraft and anti-drone system, one source with knowledge of the issue told Reuters after a closed-door briefing with Greek Defense Minister Nikos Dendias. We are in discussions with Israel, the source said. A second official confirmed the scale of the potential deal, adding that Greece needs to spend 12.8 billion euros by 2035 to modernize its armed forces. Doesn't exist. You do exist here. If half of the literal things were literal instead of figurative, we wouldn't live in a Monty Python flick. I know, right? Exactly. The air defenses are part of Athens' 10-year military purchasing plan that includes acquiring up to 40 new F-35 fighter jets and drones from the U.S. and 4 Belhara frigates and Rafale jets from France. Our effort is for a quick transition of our armed forces to the 21st century, Defense Minister Dendias said before the Thursday briefing. Greece currently uses U.S. Patriot and old Russian S-300 systems to protect its airspace, and slingshots. They use slingshots. Despite some thaw in Greece's long-troubled relations with Turkey, its much larger eastern neighbor, the two countries remain at odds on a range of issues, including sea boundaries, energy resources, and airspace in the eastern Mediterranean. Oh, and it has a little guide here that says $1 equals 0.984 or 0.9481 euros, in case you were a math nerd and you wanted to know what the conversion was. CBC voter, good morning. Happy Fish Friday to you too. I wish they were still $1, but it's not Lent, I don't think, right? Yeah, so it doesn't matter. None of this matters. Speaking of which, I said Turkey, right? Turkish trade minister says BRICS offered Turkey partner country status. There you go. Turkey was offered partner country status by the BRICS group of nations, Trade Minister Omar Balat said, as Ankara, that is Turkey's capital, I believe, continues what it calls its efforts to balance its eastern and western ties. Turkey, a NATO member, has in recent months voiced interest in joining the BRICS group of emerging economies, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Ethiopia, Iran, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan attended a BRICS leaders summit hosted by Russian President Vladimir Putin in Kazan last month after Ankara said it had taken formal steps to become a member of the group. As for Turkey's status regarding BRICS membership, they offered Turkey the status of partner membership, Balat said in an interview with private broadcaster TVNet. This status is the transition process in the organizational structure of BRICS. Ankara sees the BRICS group as an opportunity to further economic cooperation with member states rather than an alternative to its Western ties and NATO membership, Erdogan has said. He's just saying, it's an opportunity. We're not fucking over our Western people. Turkish officials have repeatedly said potential membership of BRICS would not affect Turkey's responsibilities to the Western military alliance. Right. Aside from full membership, BRICS members introduced a partner country category in Kazan, according to the declaration issued by BRICS on October 23rd. Balat did not say whether Ankara had accepted the proposal. An official in Erdogan's ruling AK party told Reuters this month that while the proposal had been discussed in Kazan, partner country status would fall short of Turkey's demands for membership. Yes, so Turkey, that would be kind of an odd relationship. You're in NATO, but then you're also in BRICS too. Somebody swings both ways. So some bombing going down in Brazil. What the hell, man? Brazil authorities link bombing in the capital to extremist discourse. A Brazilian Supreme Court justice said yesterday he believes the explosion outside the court in capital Brasilia was the consequence of frequent far-right attacks and hate speech targeting the country's institutions. It grew under the guise of a criminal use of freedom of speech to offend, threaten, coerce, Justice Alexandre de Moraes said at an event in Brasilia. Federal police are investigating the explosions on Wednesday as terrorism and a violent attack on the democratic rule of law, its director, Andre Passos Rodriguez, said at a news conference later. He said that the man had attempted to enter the Supreme Court and that it appeared that he acted alone, though the police official indicated he was also viewing the attack in the broader context of extremism. Even if the visible action is individual, behind that action there's never just one person. It's always a group or ideas of a group or extremism, radicalism that lead to committing those crimes, Passos Rodriguez said. The action, in fact, was an individual action, but the investigation will tell if there are other connections, if there are other networks, what's behind it, what drove it. The police director also said the Supreme Court has received fresh threats via email without specifying when. Security camera footage provided by the Supreme Court shows the suspect approaching a statue outside the building. As a guard nears, the man throws an explosive and retreats a few steps, then throws a second device and an explosion follows. Finally, the suspect ignites a third device near to himself, causing his death. Passos Rodriguez said that the man was a native of southern Santa Catarina state, where he previously ran for city council and had been in Brasilia several months. Police went to his Brasilia residence Thursday and used a robot to open a drawer that triggered a very serious explosion. Wow. Celina Leo, the lieutenant governor of Brazil's federal district, said Wednesday night that the man first detonated explosives in a car in a Congress parking lot, which didn't cause injuries. Then he went to Three Powers Plaza, where the Supreme Court, Congress, and Presidential Palace are located. Local media identified the man as being a member of Brazil's Liberal Party, the same as former President Jair Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro has railed against the Supreme Court in the past and specifically focuses his ire on De Moraes. Bolsonaro supporters consider De Moraes their chief enemy. He has led a 5-year investigation into fake news and threats against Supreme Court justices, which has led to the ban of some far-right allies and supporters from social media and even some imprisonments. He also presided over the nation's top electoral court when it ruled Bolsonaro ineligible for office until 2030, finding that he had abused his power and cast unfounded doubts on the validity of the 2022 election result. Bolsonaro condemned the attack on social media. It is high time for Brazil to once again cultivate an environment suitable for different ideas to confront each other peacefully and for the strength of arguments to be worth more than the arguments of force, he wrote. So, yeah, so some right-wing shenanigans going on there in Brazil. And they're storming the parliament in Georgia. Again, the country, not the U.S. state. Protesters storm parliament in breakaway Georgian region of Abkhazia. Georgia is having a normal one, as the kids say. Protesters opposing a proposed measure that would allow Russians to buy property in the Georgian territory of Abkhazia have stormed into the secessionist region's parliament building and clashed with police. The parliament in the regional capital of Sukhumi was set to discuss ratifying the measure on Friday, but postponed the session as the demonstrators gathered outside the gates of the government compound that includes the legislature's building and the presidential office. Protesters used a truck to smash through the metal gates surrounding the parliament. Ooh, nice. A little A-team style. Just bust through the gates with a truck. Video from the scene appeared to show people climbing through windows after prying off metal bars and chanting in the corridors. Emergency services said at least 8 people were taken to hospital. Eshu Kakalia, an opposition leader and former deputy prosecutor general, said that the parliament building was under the control of the protesters. We will now seek the resignation of the current president of Abkhazia. He was quoted by Russia's Interfax news agency. Protesters also broke into the presidential administration offices located in the same building as the parliament. Shit's getting nuts, y'all. People going wild. We like to see that. We like to see some people, scaring the hell out of their government. That's the way it should be. Speaking of scaring the hell out of you, I hope you're not on your phone right now, because I got some bad news for you. How many G's are bad for you? 1 G, 2 G's, 3 G's, 4 G's, 5 G's. Russian scientists make alarming 5G discovery. Is our little friend there? Controlled exposure to the 5G radiation spectrum has resulted in changes to the brain tissue of laboratory rats, according to a team of scientists from Tomsk State University in Russia. Now, this isn't news. There's been a lot of people talking about how they were worried about 5G and how it's going to be bad times. But now the rats are starting to show it. Ever since the introduction of 5G cell phone infrastructure, there have been concerns about its potential health effects. As we said, the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified the 5G radio frequency electromagnetic field, the RF-EMF, as a possible human carcinogen, but no conclusive research has emerged either way. We decided to find out what the effect of non-ionizing radiation is on rodents of different ages. Natalia Krivova, lead researcher at the TSU's Biology and Biophysics Research Institute, said in a statement. TSU scientists experimented on male Wistar rats, preferred by scientists for having similar reactions to external stimuli as humans. They tested 3 different age groups, 5 to 6 week-old rats corresponding to human adolescents, 10 to 11-week-old human adults age 40 and up, and rats age 7 to 18 weeks, humans 65 and older. All were exposed to RF-EMF frequencies for 5 weeks, which is equivalent to about 4 years of human lifespan. The study showed no outward changes between the rats exposed to the radiation and the control group. However, a more detailed study of the rat's brain tissue after exposure to the 5G antenna revealed a significant change in the ratio of antioxidants and oxidants, Krivova said. Oh, this poor little guy is there. Still don't know if those monkeys they caught those monkeys yet or not. I don't know where that was. I think that was South Carolina. It is still unclear whether the changes will lead to positive or negative changes in the rats' cognitive abilities or whether their bodies will somehow compensate for the disruption, she added, calling for further research into the subject. Yeah, well, the fact that it's changing this shit in the first place is probably not good, no matter what it is. Yeah, further research into the subject. The top study represents the first time scientists have been able to measure the radiation absorption rate on caged rodents, according to the university. The TSU radiophysics team, led by Professor Sergei Shipilov, designed the 5G antenna for the experiment, and a team led by postgraduate student Ramdas Mazmanazarov developed a method for measuring the absorption rate. Their work was published earlier this year in the journal Applied Sciences. The study was part of the International Electromagnetic Field Project initiated by the World Health Organization to obtain science-based and objective answers to questions of public concern about the possible health risks from 5G electromagnetic fields. According to Krivova, the next stage of research is intended to study female rats and investigate how 5G radiation might affect their offspring if funding can be secured. It's also checking to see if the rats use the Instagram filters when they take selfies, or if they are some real, solid cheese and take it without it. Because if you're using filters, it means you're a dishonest person. I don't know what that means. Gosh, golly willikers, gee, don't you want more weather in the Gulf of Mexico? I know you do. That's what you've been yapping about for the whole time. Tropical storm Sarah forms in the Caribbean, threatening Central America this time. I think the last one came through, clipped Cuba, and then and headed over here for Mexico's Bend, if you will. So that'd be the second time it's been hit. New tropical storm in the Caribbean is threatening to bring life-threatening rains to Central America before heading to Mexico and the U.S., as tropical storm warnings has been issued. The U.S. National Hurricane Center on Thursday, that was yesterday, forecast potentially catastrophic flash flooding and mudslides in Honduras over the next few days. Tropical storm Sarah. That was a Jefferson Starship song. Was about 85 kilometers or 50 miles from the east coast of Nicaragua and Honduras yesterday, with maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour, just below tropical storm strength. Sarah is moving westwards towards Honduras and is the 19th named storm of the season. 19. The center of the storm is expected to cross Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula over the weekend as it turns sharply to the east, slowing over land and dumping heavy rains on flood-prone mountains and valleys in northern Honduras, as well as generating a storm surge over the low-lying Atlantic coast of Central America, known as the Mosquitia. After that, weather experts said there is still uncertainty about Sarah's path, including a possible hurricane threat to Florida next week. Yes! Florida wants that. Florida is still recovering from two major hurricanes that struck its west coast this year, Helene in September and Milton in October. And here's where it's at right now. This is Sarah. Sarah is now at 50 miles per hour sustained winds. It is a tropical storm, so it's going to be, like I said, it's going to cut across the Yucatan here, or at least they project it to. This by Sunday it should be here. So Monday it's going to pop out on the other side here, the northwest side of, or at least the western side of Yucatan, and then from here, who knows? It could just easily curve up this way. They say it might go this way towards Florida, but sorry, Florida. I mean, oh God, boy, you guys are getting all of it, man. So, talking about bomb threats and whatnot earlier, Hong Kong had a bomb threat, but now they've caught the person and they're going to jail. Hong Kong protest bomb plot mastermind jailed for nearly 24 years. Hong Kong's High Court yesterday sentenced a man to 23 years and 10 months in prison for being the mastermind of an alleged plot to attack police with explosives during the city's pro-democracy and anti-China protests in 2019. The man, Ing Chi Hung, 28, had been charged for prohibitions against bombing of prescribed objects under the United Nations Anti-Terrorism Ordinance and a conspiracy to use explosives and firearms to endanger life. Another defendant, Wong Chung Kung, the leader, I think that's Kang, Wong Chung Kang, the leader of a group known as the Dragon Slayers, which was active during the 2019 protests, was sentenced to 13 years and 6 months imprisonment. Justice Judiana Barnes also sentenced 5 others to between 5 years and 10 months and 12 years for various offenses, including possessing firearms and abetting the manufacture of explosives. The long jail terms come amid a protracted national security clampdown in China in the global financial hub, and it's the first time the UN Anti-Terrorism Ordinance has been used in Hong Kong since 2002. The judge told the court that the plan was premeditated, vicious, and intended to target police officers in what she described as a declaration of war on society. Steve Lee, a chief superintendent for national security in the Hong Kong police, told reporters the sentence was the heaviest for any offense linked to the 2019 protests so far that he believed would have a substantial deterrent effect. He noted that items had been seized including explosives and bullets, with the defendants accused of planning to plant 2 bombs during a protest march on December 8th, 2019. But some arrests were made and the plan didn't go ahead. One of the defendants, Lai Chun-pong, who had pleaded not guilty to the charges but was found guilty by a jury in August, was jailed for 10 years and 10 months. He was convicted of an alternative charge of conspiring to cause explosions that were likely to endanger life or cause significant property damage. The other defendants had pleaded guilty. The ruling came less than a week before 45 of Hong Kong's leading Democrats faced sentence in a separate national security case for an alleged subversive plot from 2020. Hong Kong be wilding out with this shit, man. Good news for Sri Lanka leftists. Landslide win for Sri Lanka's leftist coalition in snap general elections. So there you go. Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Disanayake's leftist coalition has achieved a landslide victory in snap parliamentary elections, delivering the self-described Marxist leader a powerful mandate to fight poverty and corruption in the crisis-stricken nation. The Election Commission of Sri Lanka said on Friday, that's today, that his National People's Power coalition secured a 2/3 majority in parliament, winning 159 of 225 seats, a huge lead on opposition alliance Samaji Jana Balawegaya, which won 40 seats. Disanayake, a 55-year-old veteran politician, was elected president on September 21st, with 42% of the vote in a rejection of traditional political parties that have governed the island nation since independence from British rule in 1948. His party's victory on Friday vindicated his decision to immediately call elections and secure parliamentary backing for his plans to combat corruption and recover stolen assets 2 years after a financial crash led to months-long shortages of food, fuel, and essential medicines. Reporting from Colombo, Al Jazeera's Minel Fernandez said voters had said enough is enough, voting overwhelmingly to take a chance on the NPP. The vote, she said, marked a rejection of the same old faces, the same old parties that have been hoodwinking us for too long now. So good for them. Maybe under their current system, those elections will actually mean something for them, and maybe these leftists can actually get some policies for the people. But, somebody's going to be, the U.S. is going to be knocking on that door, doom, 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 doom. Hi, it's the U.S. We brought a whole basket of democracy you guys wanted, since you're all commies now. Meanwhile, Meta has fined was fined $846 million for breaking EU antitrust rules. TSK, TSK, TSK. Shame on you. The European Union has hit technology giant Meta with a fine just shy of 800 million euros for what it calls abusive practices involving its Facebook marketplace online classifieds ad business. The EU's European Commission issued the fine on Thursday. It accused Meta, which owns social media platform Facebook, of marketplace practices that give its own ad service an undue advantage over competition, or competitors, rather. The advantage stems from Meta automatically tying its ad service, Facebook Marketplace, to Facebook, creating a substantial distribution advantage, according to the Commission. All Facebook users automatically have access and get regularly exposed to Facebook Marketplace, whether they want it or not, it said. Additionally, it said Meta imposed unfair conditions on other classified ad service providers who advertise on Facebook and Instagram, enabling it to use ads-related data generated by other advertisers for the sole benefit of Facebook Marketplace. Meta contended it did not use advertisers' data for this purpose and has built systems and controls to ensure that. Meta, you got to spend that Meta money, but it's mega money. We love it around here when the CIA gets in trouble. The CIA official arrested for leaking secret docs on Israel. Dun, dun, dun. The FBI has arrested a CIA official accused of leaking classified documents on Israel's preparations for a strike against Iran, according to reports. The suspect was identified by the media as Asif William Rahman. He was taken into custody in Cambodia on Tuesday and is due to appear before a court in Guam. It was supposed to appear before a court in Guam yesterday. The New York Times was the first to report the story on Wednesday, with other outlets later confirming it. Last month, as Israel was preparing long-range strikes against Iranian targets in a tit-for-tat, giggity, response to an earlier attack by Tehran, documents that appeared to originate from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency appeared in a Telegram channel. The U.S. service is responsible for collecting and analyzing satellite and aerial imagery. The materials detailed the movement of Israeli military assets and made predictions about the planned attack. They were reportedly shareable with members of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, which includes Australia, Britain, Canada, New Zealand, and the U.S. Rahman had top-level security clearance to sensitive compartmented information, reports said, citing court documents. A federal court in Virginia indicted him last week on 2 counts of willful transmission of national defense information. The FBI previously confirmed conducting an investigation into the leak. Israel conducted its operation against Iran on October 26, almost a month after the Iranian strike on the Jewish state. Tehran's attack on October had come in retaliation for assassinations of leaders of pro-Palestinian militant groups, including on Iranian soil, which the Iranian government blamed on West Jerusalem. The escalation took place in the context of the Israeli military operation in Gaza, which was triggered by an incursion by the armed group Hamas in October 2023, and cross-border clashes with the Lebanese group Hezbollah. Earlier this week, a court in Boston sentenced former U.S. Air National Guardsman Jack Teixeira to 15 years in prison. We told you about that, for disclosing classified documents about the Ukraine conflict. In March, he pleaded guilty to 6 counts of willful transmission of secret information under the Espionage Act. Yeah. This is kind of good news. Well, it is good news, but it may be only good for a short while. Teresa, good morning over there on the Rockfin. Mutta, it's naughtier than many. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Are you putting porn bots on my thing there? I appreciate it. I'm so lonely these days. The U.S. Labor Board bans captive audience meetings to ensure truly free worker choice. So these captive audience meetings are basically trying to, it's a thing. So this is by Brett Wilkins over at Common Dreams. In a decision that advocates say will likely be reversed during the second administration of Republican President Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, the National Labor Relations Board on Wednesday ruled that employers cannot force workers to attend anti-union speeches. The NLRB's 3-1 decision in Amazon.com Services LLC means that workers will no longer have to take part in so-called captive audience meetings, which employers often use as a union-busting tool and a form of coercion. The agency explained that such meetings violate Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act because they have a reasonable tendency to interfere with and coerce employees. However, the board made clear that an employer may lawfully hold meetings with workers to express its views on unionization so long as workers are provided reasonable advance notice of, quote, the subject of any such meeting, that attendance is voluntary with no adverse consequences for failure to attend, and that no attendance records of the meeting will be kept, the NLRB added. So nobody's going to come to that meeting if you do all that. NLRB chairperson Lauren McFerrin, a Democrat, said in a statement that ensuring the workers can make a truly free choice about whether they want union representation is one of the fundamental goals of the National Labor Relations Act. Yeah. Captive audience meetings, which give employers near unfettered freedom to force their message about unionization on workers under threat of discipline or discharge, undermine this important goal, McFerrin added. Today's decision better protects workers' freedom to make their own choices in exercising their rights under the Act, while ensuring that employers can convey their views about unionization in a non-coercive manner. In April 2022, the NLRB's General Counsel Office issued a memo asserting that captive audience meetings are illegal. At least 11 states have banned such meetings. Other states are in various stages of considering or enacting bans or restrictions on them. Workers' rights advocates hailed Wednesday's decision, although labor journalist Hamilton Knoll quipped on social media that employees should enjoy this brief shining period before the Trump NLRB reverses this decision. However, more perfect union producer Jordan Zacharin argued that Democrats can protect this monumental win for labor for the next few years if they finally confirm President Joe Biden's nomination of Joshua Dittelberg, a Republican lawyer who has represented companies including Amazon, Airbnb, and United Health, to fill the 5th NLRB seat. According to the Economic Policy Institute, a Washington, D.C. based pro-union think tank, U.S. employers spend an estimated $433 million per year on union-busting consultants. This reality makes it harder for workers to fight for their collective bargaining rights because they do not know the extent of their company's investments in union busting, a figure that could empower them at the negotiating table when employers claim they can't afford to increase pay and benefits, EPI said last year. So yeah, like they said, it's just gonna, it's a departmental issue. It's not a law or anything like that. So if the Democrats had any spine, they'd make it a law, but they don't do that. If you own a cyber truck from Tesla, if you have one of those ugly ass things, you may want to check this out. They're being recalled by the thousands for some reason we'll get to in a second. Electric vehicle manufacturer Tesla is recalling 2,431 Cybertrucks in the U.S. due to an issue with its drive inverter, which potentially increases the risk of a crash. The Elon Musk company's filing with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was made public on Wednesday. The recall will impact certain Cybertruck vehicles manufactured between November 6th of last year and July 30th of this year that are or were equipped with metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistors in their drive inverter. I don't even know what that is. Tesla said that a fault in the drive inverter of the affected vehicles could cause it to stop producing torque when the driver uses the accelerator pedal. This could potentially result in a loss of propulsion and increase the risk of a collision, according to the filing. The manufacturer said it will replace the recalled drive inverter with one equipped with a functioning component and at no cost to their customers. Well, that's mighty nice of them for not charging them shit they fucked up. The filing shows that in August, Tesla launched an investigation after a customer complained of a sudden loss of propulsion on a Cybertruck in an incident that first occurred on July 31st. The EV maker has since identified an increased rate of failure for a population of drive inverters equipped with MOSFET components and made a decision to voluntarily recall the affected vehicles. Tesla said there have been no collisions, fatalities, or injuries related to the issue. Overall, Tesla has so far reported 6 recalls of Cybertrucks this year, addressing issues with accelerator pedals, improperly adhered bed trim. Oh, that's awful. And problems with the front wiper failure, among others. Maybe the fact that it's ugly as fuck, too. You might want to fix that. We're getting close to the end of the news block. I told you this is going to be a long one. This may go to like another 45 minutes. Well, the elections are officially over now here in the U.S. Republicans claim the U.S. House achieving trifecta of election victories. There's class president there. The Republican Party has won enough seats to maintain control over the House of Representatives, cementing a dominant performance in the 2024 U.S. elections. The AP news agency announced that the party had hit the key threshold of 218 seats out of a total of 435 late on Wednesday. So there's the thing there. You got, I think those are left. So they already got, they may be getting more too. The victory in the House not only gives the Republicans leadership over both chambers of Congress, but it also, in commerce, the same thing, but it also assures that the party holds sway over all major branches of government. So they have the House, they have the Senate, and of course the presidency. In the November 5th general elections, Republican leader and former President Donald Trump also won the White House by a commanding margin, campaigning on an all America First platform. And thanks to justices appointing during Trump's last term in office, the Supreme Court has a 6-3 supermajority in the conservatives' favor. We stand united, determined, and ready to deliver the America First agenda, House Speaker Mike Johnson wrote on social media early in the day in the lead up to the announcement. And see, that's what happens, right? When the party you try to support keeps fucking you over and over and over again, of course the other party's going to win. And God knows what they're going to do. So a couple of more cabinet appointments. This is the bigger one, I guess. Trump names RFK Jr. for his cabinet. He's going to nominate him to be his Secretary of Health and Human Services, declaring that the former Democrat will ensure that everybody will be protected from harmful chemicals and pollutants. Yeah, right. Trump announced his choice in a social media post yesterday. For too long, Americans have been crushed by the industrial food complex and drug companies who have engaged in deception, misinformation, and disinformation when it comes to public health, he wrote. HHS will play a big role in helping ensure that everybody will be protected from harmful chemicals, pollutants, pesticides, pharmaceutical products, and food additives that have contributed to the overwhelming health crisis in this country, he continued. Mr. Kennedy will restore these agendas to the traditions of gold standard scientific research to make America great and healthy again, yada, yada. New York Post claimed the previous day that some of Trump's closest advisors were pushing for Kennedy to be given an advisory position, but that the former Democrat was stubborn in demanding control of HHS. If confirmed, Kennedy would oversee the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, the FDA, National Institutes of Health, and other sub-agencies. Kennedy has been vocally critical of all these agencies and vowed to enact sweeping reforms if placed in charge of them. A longtime vaccine skeptic and proponent of organic agriculture, Kennedy has promised to get processed food out of school lunch immediately, to recommend that fluoride be removed from the water supply, and to crack down on the use of chemical pesticides and herbicides in farming. And finally, of course, who do you pick for your Interior Secretary? Big Oil! Trump picks big oil ally and drilling enthusiast Doug Burgum for Interior Secretary. Look at him, man. Hey, I'm going to get that Interior. I'm going to get all that oil for you there. Right? I got it there, Donnie boy. President-elect Donald Trump announced Thursday that he has chosen billionaire North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, a close ally of the fossil fuel industry and vocal proponent of oil drilling, to serve as head of the Interior Department in the incoming administration, critical post tasked with overseeing hundreds of millions of acres of federal land and water. Burgum, a friend of oil billionaire Harold Hamm, served as a kind of middleman between Trump's presidential campaign and the fossil fuel industry during the 2024 race. The Washington Post reported that Burgum's selection as Interior Secretary will give Hamm expansive influence over policy related to drilling on public lands at a time his company stands to benefit from the rule changes Trump envisions. Burgum and Hamm have already worked to shape Trump's energy policy during the presidential transition, with Reuters reporting Thursday that the pair is leading the push for a repeal of electric vehicle tax credits, a key component of the Biden administration's signature climate law, the Inflation Reduction Act. During a fundraiser over the summer, Burgum said Trump could, on day one, move to unleash liquid fuels, accusing the Biden administration of waging war on American energy. Whether it's baseload electricity, whether it's oil, whether it's gas, whether it's ethanol, there's an attack on liquid fuels, Burgum declared. Yeah. So that's what's going to be happening, and they're just going to continue to drill on public lands, just like they've been doing. And they do it under Democrats too, so don't get it twisted. It's like, oh, there's going to be more. It's like, well, there already is more. So, in our fight to educate everyone about propaganda, remember, folks, a lack of information, censoring information, and censoring symbols is all a part of the control mechanism. And who knows how to do that the best? Begins with an I and ends with Sriel.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media publishing the same things are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Israel seeks to ban Palestinian flag at state-funded institutions and universities. Because, yes, fuck history. The Israeli government is advancing a bill that would prohibit displaying the Palestinian flag at universities and institutions funded by Israel, local media said yesterday. If passed, the law would apply to any institution funded by the state budget, including universities, and would impose fines of up to 10,000 shekels, that's $2,700 large, and prison sentences of up to 1 year. According to the Israeli public broadcaster Khan, the Knesset's Ministerial Committees for Legislation is set to discuss the bill during its next session on Sunday, because they don't work on Saturdays. The proposed legislation submitted by Likud party member Nissim Vaturi aims to ban the display of flags from hostile states, including the Palestinian flag, at publicly funded or state-financed institutions. The bill stipulates that gatherings involving Palestinian flags could be dispersed, and demonstrators waving them could face up to a year in prison and a fine of no less than 10,000 shekels. Over 20% of Israel's citizens are Arabs, and many Arab citizens raised the Palestinian flag during protests against Israeli policies in the occupied Palestinian territories. See what's going on there? Arab students at Israeli universities frequently organize demonstrations against government policies, often featuring Palestinian flags. Yes. Meanwhile, the ACLU slams a Senate push to crack down on campus criticism of Israel. Look at me, I'm an angry old man. I'm going to eat these microphones. Nom, 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 nom. The ACLU yesterday sent a strongly worded letter to U.S. senators arguing that bipartisan legislation which backers claim would combat anti-Semitism on university campuses, would actually be an affront to free speech protections and censor legitimate criticism of the Israeli government as it carries out atrocities in Gaza, the occupied West Bank, and Lebanon. The group's letter comes 2 weeks after Axios reported that Senate Majority Leader at the time, Chuck Schumer, recently promised Jewish leaders that he would try later this year to pass the House-approved Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, or S4127. Instead of addressing anti-Semitism on campus, this misguided legislation would punish protected political speech, said ACLU Senior Policy Counsel Jenna Leventoff, who signed the letter with Christopher Anders, Director of Democracy and Technology. At a time when civil rights enforcement on campus could not be more critical, this bill risks politicizing these violent protections by censoring legitimate political speech that criticizes the Israeli government. Leventoff warned the right to criticize government actions is the most fundamental protection provided by the First Amendment, and this includes the action of foreign governments. The Senate must continue to block this bill and protect free speech. The letter highlights that federal law already prohibits anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment by federally funded entities. S4127 is therefore not needed to protect against anti-Semitic discrimination. Instead, it would likely chill free speech of students on college campuses by incorrectly equating criticism of the Israeli government with anti-Semitism. And that's the goal! Bing, 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 winner, winner, chicken dinner. As Israeli forces armed by the Biden administration and U.S. Congress have bombed and starved Palestinians in Gaza over the past 13 months, students, colleges, and universities across the United States have held protests urging their education institutions and government to divest from the assault, which is the subject of a genocide case at the International Court of Justice. Some campus administrations, under pressure from Zionists in Congress, have called in law enforcement to violently crack down on protesters and enacted new policies intended to limit anti-genocide demonstrations by students and faculty. Like I said, we'll have links to all these stories after the show so you can read these articles in full. So Matt Gaetz was confirmed as the Attorney General, and Newsweek thinks that it might be good for Edward Snowden. What? What's this stuff? Whistleblower Edward Snowden may fare well now that President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Florida Representative Matt Gaetz as the next Attorney General. Trump announced the nomination Wednesday, which many call the biggest bombshell pick yet for his new administration. Gaetz has been a proponent of Snowden's pardon for leaking classified documents. While he does not have direct power to pardon Snowden, his proximity to Trump may help. In 2013, then National Intelligence Director James Clapper told Congress that the National Security Agency was not collecting data on millions of Americans. Snowden's disclosures, which were given to journalist Glenn Greenwald and detailed how the agency was amassing citizens' phone records and internet data, proved his claim to be false. After traveling from the U.S. to Hong Kong and meeting with journalists in June 2013, Snowden fled the country with the help of the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks and ended up in Russia, where he was granted asylum and has lived since. In 2019, Snowden said he wanted to return to the U.S., but would only do so if he was assured he would face a fair trial, which he noted was unlikely. If I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison, the one bottom line demand that we have to agree to is that at least I get a fair trial. Snowden told CBS that, and that is the one thing the government has refused to guarantee because they won't provide access to what's called a public interest defense. While the Attorney General had administrative power to pardon people from 1853 to 1870, the responsibility has since been delegated to the Office of the Pardon Attorney within the Department of Justice. Even so, decisions to pardon are often made in consultation with the Attorney General. Now, as the potential next Attorney General, Gaetz can bring his fight to pardon Snowden to light. On September 3rd, 2020, Gaetz posted to Twitter, "Pardon Snowden." A day later, on his podcast, Gaetz said, "As of today, the case has never been stronger that Edward Snowden deserves a pardon from President Trump. I would support a pardon for Edward Snowden If it were not for Snowden, we might not know today that our own government was engaged in activity that now a federal appellate court has deemed illegal. All right. The weirdest people. But, you know, if you want to free Edward Snowden, I guess you got to pull for Matt Gaetz. He's going to be your best shot. Jesus Christ. So Ben & Jerry's is going after their own parent company. Ben & Jerry's accuses Unilever of silencing it over pro-Palestinian stance. Ben & Jerry's is back in court again, and this time it's suing its parent company Unilever over accusations that it silenced the ice cream maker's attempts to express support for a ceasefire in Gaza and support Palestinian refugees. In a lawsuit filed on Wednesday, Ben & Jerry's said Unilever breached the terms of a previous agreement that gave the ice cream company responsibility over its social mission. Despite this, Ben & Jerry's said it was silenced 4 separate times when it tried calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, advocating for halting U.S. military aid to Israel, supporting university students protesting against Israel's war on Gaza, and supporting the safe passage of Palestinian refugees from Gaza to the UK. Ben & Jerry's has on 4 occasions attempted to publicly speak out in support of peace and human rights, according to the lawsuit. Unilever has silenced each of these efforts. In the lawsuit, Ben & Jerry's also said Peter Turkolvy, Unilever's head of ice cream, I want to be head of ice cream, said he was, well, not in this case, but said he was concerned that the company being vocal on the war on Gaza could lead to a continued perception of anti-Semitism. According to the legal filing, Unilever is required to give Ben & Jerry's $5 million so the brand can donate to human rights groups of its choosing. Ben & Jerry's selected 2 organizations, the Anti-Zionist Jewish Voice for Peace and the San Francisco chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, but Unilever objected. The lawsuit states that Unilever said JVP was too critical of the Israeli government. Too critical? How can you be too critical of these motherfuckers? Tensions between Ben & Jerry's and Unilever have brewed for years and can be traced back to 2021, when Ben & Jerry's said it would stop selling its products in illegal Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank. It said at the time that selling its products in those settlements was inconsistent with the company's values. The move was met with fierce opposition from Israeli lawmakers as well as American lawmakers and state governments who threatened to pull their investments in Unilever. Following the backlash, Unilever announced it would sell Ben & Jerry's business interests in Israel to businessman Avi Zinger, the current Israeli licensee of the ice cream brand. The sale would effectively reverse the decision made by the company to stop operating in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. To stop this from happening, Ben & Jerry's filed a lawsuit against Unilever to block the sale of its business interests in Israel. Eventually, the 2 sides reached a settlement in December 2022. Ben & Jerry's new lawsuit stems from this 2022 settlement, which has continued to remain confidential. Our heart goes out to all victims of the tragic events in the Middle East. We reject the claims made by B&J Social Mission Board, and we will defend our case very strongly, Unilever said in some bullshit statement to Reuters. We could not comment further on this legal matter, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so. Finally, it's not parody. It's DiGiorno. It's what we've been waiting on this whole time. That's a little hair thing going on there. Come on down here, buddy. This sounds like an Onion article, but it's not an Onion article, but it is. It's kind of like an Inception type thing. The Onion has acquired Alex Jones' InfoWars in an auction, right? There he is there. He eats meat. He loves his wife. Gay frogs. InfoWars, the website of conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, has been purchased by The Onion, a parody outlet, putting an end to the controversial platform that drummed up anti-government paranoia in the United States for a quarter of a century. Although he is good on 9/11, you gotta give him that. The auction sale on Thursday came as a result of a 2022 ruling that found Jones liable for nearly $1.5 billion in damages for defaming the families of the victims of a mass shooting at an elementary school in Newton, Connecticut by calling the attack a hoax. The 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook claimed the lives of 20 children and 6 educators, but Jones falsely claimed that the incident did not happen, arguing that the victims and survivors were crisis actors. The Onion CEO Ben Collins confirmed the sale on Thursday, saying that it took place with the backing of Sandy Hook families. The Onion is proud to acquire InfoWars, and we look forward to continuing its storied tradition of scaring the site's users with lies until they fork over their cold, hard cash, Collins said in a statement. He added that he hopes that the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims will find joy in the cosmic joke that the Onion now owns InfoWars. And if you don't know what the Onion is, I'm sorry, you should read the Onion. It's good stuff. Onion is a parody website that publishes satirical news stories that often present a caricature of politicians and current events. And then a lot, like it says down there, a lot of those, there's stories that they do. They don't seem like parody. They seem like actual stories because the truth is stranger than fiction, as they said. Well, finally, if you're a fan of sea life, this is some good news for you. At least if you're a coral fan, this is kind of crazy. World's largest coral discovered in the Pacific near the Solomon Islands. Look at that. That's coral, right? Under the sea. Scientists have found the largest coral in the world near the remote Solomon Islands in the Pacific Ocean. A gigantic orgasm. I said orgasm with the thing and the giggity. A gigantic organism that can be seen from space. I knew this chick, she had a giant orgasm that you could see from space. And woo, that's crazy. The mega coral is 105 feet long and 111 feet wide and is believed to be about 300 years old, the National Geographic Society said on Thursday. It is mainly brown but features splashes of bright yellows, blues, and reds and is covered with ripples of waves mirroring the ocean's surface. So that's what it looks like again there. Isn't that nice? Kind of looks weird. It's alien. The organism, which has a circumference of 600 feet, is made up of a network of coral polyps, tiny individual creatures. It was discovered by members of National Geographic's Pristine Seas team, a group of scientists working on board a research vessel in the Southwest Pacific Ocean in October. Unlike a reef, which is a network of many coral colonies, the newly discovered structure is a standalone coral that has grown uninterrupted for hundreds of years. Always been a solo act, never wanted to join a group. Warming oceans caused by climate change have drained the life from corals, including in Australia's Great Barrier Reef. The researchers said witnessing this large, healthy coral oasis in slightly deeper waters is a beacon of hope. The coral species, Pavona clavus, provides habitat, shelter, and breeding grounds for an array of species from shrimps and crabs to fish. That's right. CJ, a 300-year-old orgasm. Ooh-wee. You'd probably be a little spent after that, I'd imagine. Might want to get a glass of water or something. Maybe a nice towel for yourself. Yeah, so that's the news and all that stuff. I tell you, we ran about our usual time, I guess. I guess that's good. So no Willie Bragg show tonight, but coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern, I believe Kevin is going to have Black Bear News for us on YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble. Not quite sure where else he does. I think he does it on X too. I'm not quite sure. And then Around the World with Dee and Friends tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. No ExtraBulla Live this week. We're taking a little break from that. Was it good for you, 200? It was 300 years ago. I can't even remember how it started. So yeah, all that good stuff tonight. And then, of course, Saturday night, got this jerk. We're going to be doing the secret show. Yours truly, talking about nutty stuff, silly stuff. The sillies and the nutties, the way nature intended. Sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's just me talking about various sexual toys and stuff. For adults, you're naked with dicks in your mouth? Okay. As long as they don't draw dicks on your face. Well, I guess the dicks in your mouth, you probably want that either. I don't know. You do you, boo, as the kids say. Let's see. So that's going to be tomorrow night at midnight Eastern is a secret show. Midnight Eastern. We'll be having some funsies there. Be sure to check that out. And then this show will be back on Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Choosy told you to be naked. You should never listen to Choosy. Come on, man. So yeah, and if you're new, if you're kind of lurking, you're like, what is this thing? Maybe I want to see this again. So make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons there. I appreciate that, kind of getting the word out piece by piece. If you want to donate to the show, we got the instant ones, the CashApp, the Venmo, and stuff like that. But if you want to be a Patreon supporter, you can do that too. And if you don't have any bread, that's fine too. If you could share out the links, appreciate it. That always, every little bit helps. So I appreciate and love each and every one of y'all for that, and for just being the cool peeps that you are. So hopefully you have a wonderful weekend. And as Grovember continues, I'm starting to get a little scraggly here. This is hopefully by next month, by the time it's Murray Crima time, we'll have a nice, cracked out Santa beard, and we'll do like some sort of Christmas type thing. Who knows? One never knows in this day and age what's going to happen in the future. So make sure you're taking care of each other. Stay frosty. Don't join the cults. Stay off the clout chase, and use your critical thinking skills. You got them. Use them. If it smells like bullshit, it probably is. So, question everything. Take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next time. Peace out. Smoke them if you got them. Or if not, you can eat them too, I think. Or whatever. I don't care. These are my fingers.
This is SETI Alpha 5! Woo! A damn good song, wasn't it, dog? You like that song? All right.